The lights in the council chamber dimmed as Ambassador Zixcala stepped forward. Her crystal body caught the soft blue glow from the viewing screens, making patterns of light dance across her transparent skin. She had never felt fear like this before. Her people, the Vorthok, were dying on a distant world, and she was their only hope. Around the circular chamber sat representatives from 17 different alien species. Each one looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like living metal. But they all shared one thing in common. None of them had ever faced a threat like this before. The message came through the quantum communication array 3 hours ago. Colony ship Harmony had been mining crystals on Kepler-4 for 2 years without any problems. The planet was rich in the blue crystals that powered Vorthok technology. 7,000 colonists lived there in peace, following the same gentle ways their people had practiced for thousands of years. Then the Ravagers came. Zixcala touched the control panel with one slender finger. The main screen filled with images that made several council members gasp. Black mechanical ships swarmed around the planet like angry insects. Each ship was the size of a building covered in sharp metal spines and glowing red lights. They moved in perfect formation, like parts of one giant machine. They arrived without warning, Zixcala said, her voice shaking despite her efforts to stay calm. Our long-range sensors detected nothing until they were already in the system. By then it was too late to evacuate. The screen changed to show the planet's surface, where once stood the gleaming towers of the crystal mining operation. Now only twisted metal remained. Huge machines crawled across the ground like mechanical spiders, tearing apart everything in their path. They consumed buildings, vehicles, and even the ground itself, turning it all into fuel for their endless hunger. "How many survivors remain?" asked Councillor Leckmore, his blue skin turning pale. "Less than 3,000, Zixcala replied. "They are hiding in the underground shelters. Our defensive systems were designed to stop asteroids and solar storms, not military attacks. We have no weapons that can hurt these machines." The truth was painful to admit. The Vorthok had never needed weapons. Their crystal bodies were fragile compared to other species, but they had intelligence and technology. They solved problems through thinking, not fighting. War was something they had read about in historical records from other worlds, not something they understood. Council Leader Vextarn floated in his gravity chair, his tentacles moving in slow patterns that showed deep thought. As leader of the council, he had faced many crises before. Floods, earthquakes, even the occasional pirate attack. But this was different. The Ravagers were not just raiders looking for profit. They wanted to consume everything. "What do we know about these Ravagers?" Vextarn asked. The screen changed again to show technical data. Sharp lines and numbers filled the display, but the information painted a terrifying picture. The Ravagers were not alive in any normal sense. They were machines, but machines with a hunger. They traveled from star to star, consuming everything they found and building more of themselves from the remains. "Our scientists believe they are von Neumann machines," explained Dr. Kolsek, the council's chief researcher. "Cell constructs designed to expand without limit. They have consumed at least 6 star systems in the past century. Each system makes them stronger and gives them resources to build more ships." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Every council member understood what this meant. If the Ravagers were not stopped at Kepler-4 to B, they would move on to the next system and the next. Eventually, they would consume the entire galaxy. "What military assets can we deploy?" Vextarn asked. The question hung in the air like a bad smell. The council maintained a small peacekeeping force, but it was designed to break up fights between traders or rescue ships in distress. Their largest warship could barely match one Ravager vessel, and the enemy had brought dozens. "Our combined fleet would be outnumbered 10-1, admitted Fleet Commander Joxfell. "Even if we gathered every military ship from all 17 member worlds, we would not have enough firepower to break their defenses." Zixcala felt her crystal heart growing cold. She had known the answer before asking, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. Her people were going to die, And there was nothing the council could do to save them. But then something unexpected happened. A new voice spoke from the shadows at the back of the chamber. Perhaps we can offer assistance. Every head turned to look at the speaker. In the dim light stood a figure that looked almost familiar, but wrong in subtle ways. It had 2 arms and 2 legs like many species, but its skin was smooth and pink instead of scales or fur. Its eyes were small and forward-facing, like a predator. Most unsettling of all, it smiled, showing white teeth that looked designed for tearing meat. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," the figure said, stepping into the light. "We have been monitoring your communications." Several council members made sounds of surprise. Earth was a mystery world that few had heard of, and even fewer had visited. The planet was listed in the navigation databases, but marked with warnings. Dangerous gravity, poisonous atmosphere, extreme weather, and worst of all, inhabited by a species that had never been contacted. "How long have you been listening?" Vextarn demanded. "Long enough," Morrison replied. His voice was calm, but carried an undertone that made several aliens step back. "We know about the Ravagers. We know about your colony. And we know that your people are about to die unless someone helps them." The human walked to the center of the chamber with confident steps. He moved like a hunter, each motion controlled and purposeful. His clothes were dark and practical, designed for function rather than ceremony. At his side hung a weapon that looked crude but effective. "Said your fleet would be outnumbered 10-1, Morrison continued. "What if someone could even those odds?" Possible Fleet Commander Joxfell said. "The Ravagers have consumed entire civilizations. What could one world contribute to such a battle?" Morrison's smile grew wider, showing more of those predator teeth. "You would be surprised what humans can do when properly motivated." He touched a device on his wrist, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed technical specifications that made no sense to the assembled aliens. The numbers seemed too high, the weapon yields too destructive, the ship capabilities too advanced for a species that had never joined the galactic community. "This is the EDF Liberty," Morrison explained. "Stealth frigate, crew of 48. We can be at Kepler 44 to be in 6 hours. One ship?" Zixkala asked, her voice barely a whisper. "One ship against all those Ravagers?" Morrison looked directly at her, and she saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. It was not anger or hatred. It was something colder and more frightening. It was the look of someone who understood violence not as a last resort, but as a tool to be used with skill. "Trust me," Morrison said. "One ship will be enough to get started." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some members argued that involving an unknown species was too dangerous. Others claimed that desperate times called for desperate measures. Through it all, Morrison stood quietly in the center, waiting for their decision. Finally, Vextern raised one tentacle for silence. "If you can save the Vorthok colonists, we will be forever in your debt. But I must ask, what do you want in return?" Predator's smile faded, replaced by an expression that was almost sad. "Nothing you can give us. We do this because it needs doing. Sometimes that is reason enough." He turned and walked toward the chamber exit, his footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. At the doorway, he paused and looked back. "Prepare your people for what comes next," he said. "The galaxy is about to learn that humans do not hide in the shadows by choice. We hide there because it is safer for everyone else when we do." Then he was gone, leaving behind only questions and the faint scent of something dangerous that had passed through their peaceful world. The EDF Liberty dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system with barely a whisper. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the tactical displays light up with enemy contacts. 47 red dots swarmed around the planet like angry wasps, each one representing a Ravager ship the size of a skyscraper. Lieutenant Amy Brooks worked at the communications station, her fingers dancing over the controls as she tried to establish contact with the survivors below. The equipment had been modified to handle alien frequencies, but the process was slow and delicate. One wrong setting could turn their words into meaningless noise. "Signal acquired, Captain," Amy reported. I have someone on the surface. Sound scared? Put him through, Morrison ordered. The bridge speakers crackled to life with a voice that sounded like crystal bells ringing in the wind. The alien words made no sense, but the fear behind them needed no translation. Morrison had heard that same tone from human survivors trapped behind enemy lines. Desperation was universal. Amy, get the translation program online. Carlos, what is our stealth status? Chief Engineer Carlos Martinez checked his instruments from the engine room. We are invisible, Captain. Their sensors cannot find us unless we get very close or use the big guns. Morrison nodded.
Ow.
The Liberty had been designed for exactly this kind of mission. While other human ships were built for direct confrontation, the Liberty was made to slip through enemy defenses and strike where it would hurt the most. Her crew had trained for years in tactics that most civilized species would consider impossible or insane. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked in the medical bay, preparing equipment for alien physiology. She had studied Vorthok biology from the limited data in human databases, but treating wounded crystal beings would be a challenge unlike any she had faced. Her medical training included battlefield surgery on humans, but aliens might react differently to human medicine. Translation online, Amy announced. I can understand them now. The alien voice came through more clearly this time, though still filled with terror. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. The machines are everywhere. They have taken the upper levels. We cannot hold them much longer. Morrison picked up the communication device. This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. We are here to help. What is your current situation? Silence filled the bridge for several seconds. Then the alien voice returned, sounding confused and hopeful at the same time. Earth Defense Force? We do not know this organization. Are you with the Council? Work with them sometimes, Morrison replied, which was technically true. How many survivors do you have, and where are you located? I am Administrator Tixnala of Colony Ship Harmony. We have 2,800 colonists in the underground shelters. The Ravagers control everything above ground level 3. They are trying to break through our security doors. Morrison studied the tactical display. The Ravager ships were positioned in a perfect grid around the planet, their smaller craft moving back and forth like shuttles. They were strip mining the entire surface, consuming everything and turning it into raw materials for more machines. Commander Turner, take your team to the surface. Find these colonists and establish a secure perimeter. Dr. Hayes, you are going. With them, Commander Alex Turner had been waiting for those orders. He was a compact man with scars on his hands and a way of moving that suggested coiled springs. His team consisted of the Liberty's best ground fighters, each one trained in combat techniques that would horrify peaceful aliens. Sergeant Walsh, Corporal Foster, gear up for alien contact, Turner ordered. Full combat load but non-threatening appearance. We do not want to scare the people we are trying to save. Sergeant Kevin Walsh checked his weapon one more time. It was a human-made plasma rifle, designed to punch through armor that could stop conventional bullets. Next to him, Corporal Megan Foster loaded her backpack with medical supplies and emergency equipment. Both soldiers moved with the casual efficiency of people who had done this many times before. The shuttle bay opened silently as the team prepared for launch. Pilot Kelly Wright ran through her pre-flight checklist, making sure the atmospheric fighter was ready for combat operations. The small craft looked harmless from the outside, but it carried enough firepower to level a city block, remember? Morrison said over the comm system, these aliens have never seen real combat. They do not understand what we do or how we do it. Try not to traumatize them more than necessary. The fighter launched toward the planet's surface, visible to Ravager sensors thanks to human stealth technology. Dr. Ryan Carter monitored alien communications from the ship, listening to the fear and confusion in their voices as they tried to understand what was happening to their peaceful world. 20 minutes later, the fighter touched down in a crater that had once been a Vorthok garden. The ground around them was torn and scarred where the mechanical invaders had stripped away everything of value, twisted metal and broken. Crystal fragments covered what had been beautiful walkways and living spaces. Commander Turner led his team toward the underground entrance, following coordinates provided by the survivors. The tunnel system had been designed as storage space for mining equipment. It's not as a fortress, but the Vorthok had done their best to make it defensible. The security door was 3 feet thick and made of crystalline metal that sparkled in there. Flashlight beams. Turner knocked on it in the pattern that Administrator Tixnala had provided. After a moment, the door slid open with a grinding sound. The alien who greeted them was unlike anything the humans had ever seen in person. Tixnala stood 7 feet tall and seemed to be made of living crystal, her body transparent except for the soft blue light that glowed inside her. Her face was angular and delicate, with large eyes that reflected their flashlight beams. Behind her crowded dozens of other Vorthok, all looking at the humans with expressions of wonder and fear. They had never seen organic beings who moved with such controlled aggression, carried weapons as naturally as breathing, who looked at their surroundings like predators hunting for threats. "You are human," Tixnala said, her voice like wind chimes. "We have heard stories, but never met your kind before." "We keep to ourselves usually," Turner replied. "But sometimes we make exceptions." "How long until those machines break through your defenses?" El Tixnala gestured toward the tunnel entrance. "Perhaps 6 hours, maybe less. Their mining tools are very strong, and they do not stop to rest." Dr. Hayes moved among the injured colonists, examining wounds that had been caused by falling debris and stress-related crystal fractures. The aliens watched her work with fascination. Having never seen someone who could treat injuries with such calm efficiency while surrounded by danger, "These people need medical attention," Dr. Hayes reported. "Some of them are suffering from shock. They are not built for this kind of stress." Sergeant Walsh took position near the entrance, his weapon ready, but pointed away from the civilians. The aliens gave him a wide space, sensing something dangerous in his stillness. They could not understand how someone could be so relaxed while preparing for violence. "Corporal Foster, start setting up our defensive positions," Turner ordered. "Kelly, I need you to scout the upper levels and report on enemy positions." The pilot nodded and headed back toward her fighter. As she passed the clustered aliens, several of them stepped back without knowing why. Something about the way she moved triggered instincts they did not even know they had. Administrator. Tixnala watched the humans work with growing amazement. In the space of minutes, they had transformed the tunnel entrance from a hiding place into something that felt secure. They moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of long experience with exactly this kind of situation. "How do you do this?" she asked Commander Turner. "How do you stay so calm when death surrounds us?" Turner looked at her with eyes that had seen too much combat to count. "This is what we do. This is what we are good at. Your people are safe now." Far above them, Ravager machines continued their relentless consumption of the planet's surface, unaware that predators had entered their hunting ground. In the depths of space, Captain Morrison watched the tactical displays and prepared to teach the galaxy what humans could do when their protective instincts were awakened. The real war was about to begin. The first Ravager scout broke through the upper security door exactly 4 hours later. Commander Turner heard the grinding sound of metal being torn apart and signaled his team to take positions. The aliens behind them pressed deeper into the tunnels, their crystal bodies shaking with fear they had never experienced before. "Contact in 30 seconds, Sergeant Walsh whispered into his CUM unit. Single unit, spider configuration, approximately 8 feet tall. Turner nodded and moved to his position beside the tunnel entrance. The humans had spent the last 4 hours preparing for this moment, turning a simple storage area into a killing field that would have impressed any military strategist. They used mining equipment, storage containers, and even broken furniture to create cover and channels that would force the enemy to move where the humans wanted them to go. The Ravager appeared at the tunnel mouth like a nightmare made of black metal and red lights. Its body was roughly spider-shaped, with 8 jointed legs that ended in razor-sharp points. Its central mass bristled with cutting tools and sensors that swept the area looking for targets. When it detected the life signs deeper in the tunnel, it let out a mechanical screech that made the aliens cry out in terror. Turner waited until the machine was exactly where he wanted it, then squeezed the trigger of his plasma rifle. The bolt of superheated energy struck the Ravager's center mass and burned through its armor like it was made of paper. The machine staggered, sparks flying from its damaged systems, but it did not fall. "Tough little bug," Walsh muttered, putting 3 more shots into the creature's sensor array. The Ravager spun in circles, its navigation systems destroyed. Before Turner finished it with a shot to its central processing unit, the aliens stared in shocked silence as the machine collapsed. In a heap of twisted metal, they had never seen violence so efficient, so controlled, so completely without emotion. To them, the humans looked like they were performing a routine task rather than fighting for their lives. Dr. Hayes checked for wounded. Turner ordered, "Foster, help me drag this thing out of sight. More will come soon." Corporal Foster grabbed one of the Ravager's legs and helped Turner move the destroyed machine into a side passage. The metal was still hot from the plasma burns, but both humans handled it without difficulty. Their gloves were designed for exactly this kind of work. Administrator Tixnala approached Turner cautiously, her crystalline features reflecting the emergency lighting in rainbow patterns. "You destroyed it so easily. How is this possible?" Checked his weapon and reloaded with practiced motions. "It is designed to hunt things that cannot fight back. You're not those things." High above them, pilot Kelly Wright circled the colony in her atmospheric fighter, watching the Ravager forces through her targeting system. The enemy had noticed the loss of their scout and was sending more units to investigate. The spider-like machines moved toward the tunnel entrance in a coordinated formation. "Turner, you have company coming," Kelly reported over the radio. "Dozen contacts, moving fast. They know where you are now." Turner smiled grimly and activated his combat comm system. "All units, prepare for sustained engagement. Remember, these things think like a computer. They will try to overwhelm us with numbers." The second wave arrived 10 minutes later, but this time the humans were ready for them. Lieutenant Colonel Danny Pierce had joined the fight, bringing with him equipment that turned the tunnel system into a maze of deadly surprises. Motion sensors triggered explosives at key choke points. Automated turrets emerged from hidden positions to catch the machines in crossfire, but the real advantage was something the Ravagers could not understand or counter. The humans fought with individual creativity while maintaining perfect team coordination. Each soldier made independent decisions that supported the overall battle plan. When Pierce created a distraction on the left flank, Turner immediately exploited the opening on the right. When Walsh ran low on ammunition, Foster was already moving to provide covering fire. The Vorthok colonists watched this display of coordinated violence with growing amazement and horror. Their people had never developed anything like military tactics. They solved problems through discussion and cooperation, not through the systematic destruction of threats. Seeing the humans work together to kill with such efficiency was like watching aliens from another universe. Explosives expert Tony Rodriguez had spent the preparation time mining charges into improvised weapons. The explosives were designed to break apart rock formations, but with a few modifications, they became devastatingly effective against mechanical targets. When the third wave of Ravagers tried to rush the main entrance, his carefully placed charges collapsed the entire tunnel, a section on top of them. "Nice work, Tony," Turner called out as dust and debris settled around them. "How many more surprises do you have ready?" Rodriguez grinned and patted the backpack full of modified mining equipment, enough to make those machines wish they had stayed home. Dr. Lisa Hayes moved through the aftermath of each engagement, treating minor injuries with calm efficiency. The humans had taken very little damage, but she checked each team member thoroughly. Combat medicine was different from civilian healthcare. In battle, a small wound could become fatal if not treated immediately. The aliens watched her work with fascination. They had healers among their own people, but none who could remain so steady while surrounded by the wreckage of violent conflict. Dr. Hayes examined a cut on Walsh's hand with the same careful attention she gave to the crystal fractures in injured colonists. "How do you do this?" asked one of the younger Vorthok, a colonist named Pixcara, whose blue glow had dimmed with stress. "How do you hurt other beings so easily?" Combat medic Jason Clark looked up from cleaning his weapon. "We do not hurt people easily. We hurt things that want to hurt people." "There is a difference," communications officer Rachel Stone maintained. Contact with Captain Morrison aboard the Liberty, providing constant updates on the ground situation. The ship remained hidden in the outer system, monitoring Ravager communications and preparing for the larger battle that everyone knew was coming. "Captain, the enemy is adapting their tactics," Rachel reported. "They are bringing heavier units and more sophisticated equipment. The ground team cannot hold forever." Morrison studied the tactical displays from his command chair. The Ravagers were learning from each failed attack, adjusting their approach based on what they had observed. But they were still thinking like machines, trying to solve the human problem through superior firepower and numbers. "They do not understand what they are fighting," Morrison said quietly. "They think we are just another prey species with better tools. They have no idea what a predator looks like when it decides to hunt." Intelligence Officer Sam Parker had been analyzing captured Ravager technology, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited on a larger scale. The machines were remarkably advanced, but they had been designed by beings who thought like them. Everything was logical, predictable, and efficient. "Captain, I found something interesting," Sam reported. "These machines share data through quantum links. Each unit learns from the experiences of all the others. But that means they also share vulnerabilities." Morrison leaned forward in his chair. "Explain." "If we could introduce false data into their network, we could confuse their entire tactical system. Make them think they are winning when they are actually being led into a trap." The idea was typically human. Instead of trying to match the enemy's superior numbers and firepower, they would use the Ravagers' own strengths against them. It was exactly the kind of thinking that separated predators from prey. Down in the tunnels, Commander Turner received new orders from the ship. The ground engagement was about to become something much larger and more dangerous. But first they had to survive the next wave of attacks. "All units prepare for Phase 2, Turner announced. "We are going hunting." The humans checked their weapons and equipment with practiced efficiency. The Vorthok colonists watched them prepare for offensive operations with growing understanding. These beings were not just defending the colony, they were preparing to take the fight to the enemy. The real battle was about to begin. The counteroffensive began at dawn with explosions that shook the entire colony. Demolition specialist Rick Davis had spent all night crawling through maintenance tunnels, placing charges on Ravager communication towers. When the sun rose over, Kepler for 4 to B. 12 enemy command posts vanished in brilliant flashes of light and fire. Commander Turner led his team up from the underground shelters as the mechanical invaders fell into chaos. Without their command network, the Ravager units began moving in random patterns, bumping into each other and attacking empty buildings. Their perfect coordination turned into confused wandering in the space of minutes. "Beautiful work, Rick," Turner said as another explosion lit up the morning sky. "How many more can you give me?" Davis checked his remaining supplies and smiled. "I have enough charges to keep them confused for hours. These machines really do not like losing their radio towers." The plan was working exactly as Intelligence Officer Sam Parker had predicted. The Ravagers relied completely on their communication network to coordinate attacks. When that network went down, they became individual units with no ability to work together. It was like watching a colony of ants after someone had destroyed their nest. Sniper Elena Murphy took position in the tallest remaining building, a crystal spire that had somehow survived the initial attack. From her perch, 300 feet above the ground, she could see the entire battlefield. Her rifle was a work of art, custom-built for long-range precision shooting. Each shot could kill at distances that would amaze alien marksmen. "I have eyes on primary targets," Elena reported to Corporal Nathan Rogers, who served as her spotter. "Counting 15 heavy units moving toward the mining facility, they look expensive." Nathan used his binoculars to confirm the targets. Ravager heavy units were twice the size of the Spider Scouts, equipped with mining lasers that could cut through solid rock. In a normal battle, they would be nearly impossible to stop. But snipers did not fight normal battles. "Wind is calm. Range 400 meters, Nathan called out. "Target the sensor clusters on the lead unit." Elena's first shot struck the lead Ravager exactly where she had aimed. The machine's sensor array exploded in sparks and smoke, leaving it blind and helpless. Second shot took out its mobility system, sending it crashing to the ground. Other units stopped moving, confused by the loss of their leader. Down below, the Vorthok colonists watched through the shelter's observation windows as Alina systematically destroyed one target after another. They could not understand how someone could be so accurate at such incredible distances. Their own people had good eyes, but nothing compared to human marksmanship skills developed through thousands of years of hunting. "She is like a spirit of death," whispered Administrator Tixnala. "How does she know where to aim?" Combat medic Jason Clark overheard the comment and tried to explain. "Alina has been shooting since she was a child. On Earth, we learn these skills for survival. Here, they help us protect people like you." The ground assault intensified when Commander Alex Turner led a direct attack on the primary Ravager harvesting facility. The machines had turned the former colony administration building into a processing center, stripping valuable materials from everything they captured. Destroying it would hurt their ability to build more units. Combat engineer Mike Sullivan and heavy weapon specialist Frank Thompson flanked the building while Turner approached from the front. The plan required perfect timing and coordination, the kind of teamwork that humans learned through years of training together. "Charges set on the west wall," Sullivan reported. "I can bring down their main support beam. Heavy weapons ready." Thompson added, "I have clear shots at their power generators." Turner counted down from 5, then all 3 humans struck at once. Sullivan's explosives collapsed part of the building's structure, while Thompson's rockets destroyed the Ravager power systems. Turner led the assault through the main entrance, his plasma rifle clearing a path through the mechanical defenders. The aliens watching from their shelters had never seen coordination like this. Each human knew exactly what the others would do when they would do it, and how to support them. It was like watching parts of a single mind operating in different bodies. Dr. Ryan Carter monitored enemy communications from his position in the mobile command post. Listening to the electronic screams of confused Ravager units, the machines were trying to re-establish their network connections. But each attempt was blocked by human jamming equipment or destroyed by precision strikes. "Their command structure is completely broken," Carter reported. "Individual units are reverting to basic programming. They are becoming predictable." This was exactly what the humans had hoped for. Predictable enemies were dead enemies. When the Ravagers fell back on simple programming, they lost the adaptability that had made them dangerous. They became targets instead of threats. But then Carter detected something new in the communication patterns. Deep space transmissions were reaching the planet from the outer system. The main Ravager fleet was receiving reports about their force's strange behavior, and they were not happy about it. "Captain Morrison, we have a problem," Carter reported to the Liberty. "The big fleet is moving. They're coming to investigate what happened to their ground forces." Aboard the stealth frigate, Captain Morrison had been expecting this development. The Ravagers were not stupid, just different. When their ground forces started losing, the fleet commanders would want to know why. That meant bringing their main battle group into the inner system where human weapons could reach them. "How long until they arrive?" Morrison asked. 6 hours, maybe 7, Carter replied. "But Captain, there are 47 ships in that fleet, even with our advantages. Those are not good odds." Morrison studied the tactical display showing the approaching enemy formation. Each Ravager ship was a mobile factory, capable of building more units from raw materials. If they reached the planet, they could replace their losses faster than humans could destroy them. But Morrison was not thinking about defense anymore. He was thinking about offense. "Amy, open a channel to all human units," Morrison ordered. "It is time to let the galaxy know what we can really do." The final phase of the ground battle began with pilot Kelly Wright leading airstrikes against the remaining Ravager positions. Her atmospheric fighter moved through the sky like a hunting hawk, striking targets with precision that left the mechanical forces unable to respond effectively. The aliens watched in amazement as the small human aircraft destroyed machines 10 times its size. Kelly's flying skills had been developed on Earth, where gravity was stronger and weather was more dangerous than anything found on peaceful worlds. What seemed impossible to the Vorthok was merely difficult for a human pilot. "Target destroyed," Kelly reported, after eliminating another command post. I count 0 active enemy units in Sector 7. The mining facility is clear. One by one, the Ravager positions fell to human tactics that combined technology with creativity. Where the machines expected direct assault, they found deception. Where they prepared for deception, they met overwhelming firepower. The humans fought like water, flowing around obstacles, always finding the path that would hurt the enemy most. Administrator Tixnala emerged from the shelters as the last of. The ground-based Ravagers fell silent. Around her, the colony lay in ruins, but her people were alive. The humans had saved them from complete extinction, and done it with a force smaller than a single Vorthok rescue team. She asked Commander Turner. How did so few accomplish what our entire civilization could not? Turner looked up at the sky, where the enemy fleet was approaching like a swarm of deadly stars. We grew up on a world that tried to kill us every day. Everything else is easy by comparison. It's a real test. Was still coming? In space above them? Captain Morrison prepared to show the galaxy what happened when humans decided to go to war. The Ravager fleet arrived at Kepler 44 to be like a storm of black metal and red fire. 47 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, each one large enough to carry a city. Their weapons powered up immediately, scanning the planet for whatever had destroyed their ground forces. Captain Jake Morrison watched the enemy formation from the Bridge of the Liberty, hidden in the shadow of the system's largest moon. His crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for a battle that would determine whether humanity remained a secret or became the galaxy's most feared predator. They are scanning the planet's surface, reported Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her communication station. Their transmissions show confusion about what happened to their ground units. Morrison smiled coldly. The Ravagers had never encountered an enemy that could destroy their forces so completely. Their programming told them that superior numbers always won battles. They could not understand how 48 humans had eliminated thousands of their machines. Weapons Officer Bennett. Are we ready? Morrison asked. Phil Bennett checked his targeting systems one final time. The Liberty carried weapons that most galactic civilizations would consider impossible to build. Human military technology had been developed in secret for decades. It's designed specifically for fighting enemies with superior numbers and firepower. All systems green, Captain. We can engage at your command. Navigator Janet Kim plotted attack vectors that would maximize their advantages while minimizing exposure to enemy fire. The Liberty was fast and heavily armed, but it could not survive a prolonged battle against 47 enemy warships. They would have to strike hard, strike fast, and strike smart. Janet, take us in, Morrison ordered. Time to introduce ourselves properly. The Liberty emerged from the moon's shadow like a ghost, materializing from the darkness. Her stealth systems kept her invisible until she was already among the enemy formation. Her weapons locked onto the largest Ravager command ship. The first salvo of human weapons fire lit up space like a new star being born. Energy beams that could punch through planetary shields struck the Ravager flagship from 3 different angles. The massive enemy vessel staggered under the assault, its armor glowing white-hot from the impacts. But the Liberty was already gone. It's vanishing back into stealth mode before the other Ravager ships could target her. Enemy fleets spun in confusion, their sensors unable to track something they had never been designed to fight. Direct hit on their command vessel, reported Tactical Officer Amy Brooks. Heavy damage to their primary communications array. Morrison watched the enemy formation begin to break apart as individual ships tried to hunt for the invisible attacker. Without coordinated commands from their flagship, the Ravager vessels were operating independently, making them vulnerable to the tactics that had worked so well on the planet's surface. Chief Engineer Carlos Martinez kept the engines running beyond their normal limits, pushing the Liberty through maneuvers that would have torn apart most ships. Human engineering was built for extreme conditions.
Right.
Designed by people who understood that survival often meant exceeding safety margins. Engine stress at 90%, Carlos reported. We can maintain this pace for 6 hours, maybe 7. Space battle raged across the entire system as the Liberty appeared and disappeared like a hunting ghost. Each attack struck a different target from an unexpected angle, leaving the Ravager fleet unable to mount an effective defense. Their weapons were powerful, but they could not hit what they could not see. On the planet below, the rescued Vorthok colonists watched the battle through their shelter's observation equipment. Points of light danced across the dark sky as human weapons found their targets. Each flash represented the destruction of a machine that could have consumed entire worlds. Administrator Tixnala stood beside her people, her crystal form reflecting the distant explosions. "One ship," she whispered. "One small ship against their entire fleet." The battle continued for 4 hours, with the Liberty striking again and again, while the Ravager fleet grew smaller and more desperate. Human tactics that combined stealth, speed, and devastating firepower proved superior to mechanical precision in overwhelming numbers. But the real surprise came when other ships began arriving in the system, not human vessels, but Ravager reinforcements. From nearby star systems, the mechanical fleet was calling for help, something their programming had never been forced to do before. "Captain, we have new contacts," Amy reported. 23 additional enemy ships dropping out of hyperspace. "They are moving to surround us." Morrison nodded grimly. He had expected this development. Ravagers were machines, but they were not stupid. When their standard tactics failed, they would adapt by bringing more firepower to bear. It was time for the Liberty to reveal her final secret. "Amy, broadcast this message on all galactic frequencies," Morrison ordered. "Let everyone hear what comes next." The communication array powered up, sending Morrison's words across the galaxy to every civilized world. Alien governments and military leaders who had been monitoring the battle suddenly found themselves listening to a human captain addressing the entire galactic community. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," his voice carried clearly through space. "For too long, we have watched from the shadows while peaceful species faced extinction. Today, that ends. Today, the galaxy learns that predators protect as well as hunt." On hundreds of worlds, alien leaders looked at each other in shock and fear. The mysterious humans were revealing themselves, and they were doing it during the destruction of the most dangerous threat the galaxy had ever faced. Morrison continued his broadcast. While the Liberty prepared for its final gambit, the Ravagers made one critical mistake. They threatened species under our protection. That is something we cannot allow. Weapons Officer Phil Bennett activated systems that had never been used in combat before. The Liberty's main gun was not just a weapon, but a projection system for human military technology that defied galactic understanding of physics. The energy beam that emerged from the ship's forward ray was unlike anything the Ravagers had encountered. The beam struck the center of the enemy formation and kept going, passing through ship after ship like they were made of paper. Vessels that had survived the destruction of entire star systems vanished in explosions that lit up the entire system. "Possible," gasped Dr. Ryan Carter, watching the tactical display from the planet's surface. "Oh, no weapon should be able to do that." But human science had developed beyond what most galactic civilizations thought possible. Decades of secret research, driven by the knowledge that humanity might someday face exactly this kind of threat, had produced weapons that seemed to violate the laws of physics. The surviving Ravager ships attempted to retreat, but the Liberty was faster. Morrison's crew hunted down each fleeing vessel with ruthless efficiency, ensuring that none escaped to spread word of human capabilities to other mechanical swarms. When the last enemy ship exploded in a ball of superheated plasma, space around Kepler 440b fell silent. Debris from 70 destroyed Ravager vessels drifted slowly through the vacuum. Their threat ended forever. The galactic communication networks erupted with messages from every civilized world. Alien governments demanded explanations, offered alliances, or simply tried to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had emerged from their self-imposed exile in the most dramatic way possible. Captain Morrison stood on the Liberty's bridge, watching rescue ships from dozens of species arrive to help the Vorthok colonists. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity was no longer a rumor or a mystery, but an active player in galactic affairs. Captain Amy reported, "We are receiving communication requests from the Galactic Council, 17 different governments, and 43 news organizations. Everyone wants to talk to us." Morrison considered the requests for a moment, then shook his head. "Tell them we will talk when we are ready. We have work to do." The Liberty turned toward deep space, where long-range sensors had detected other Ravager swarms moving toward inhabited systems. The galaxy had learned that humanity existed, but they had not yet learned the full extent of human capabilities. In the depths of space, mechanical intelligences that had consumed countless civilizations suddenly found their target lists updated with a new priority. Sol System was now marked with warning symbols that their programming struggle to interpret Earth was no longer hiding in the shadows. The Deathworlders had emerged, and the galaxy would never be safe from threats again. But it would also never be safe for the threats themselves. The hunt had begun.